Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Inventor's Quick Tips. In this episode, we are talking about determining the feasibility of an invention. Pursuing an invention takes a lot of time, effort, and money. So before diving into that head first, it is good to do some analysis. In a previous episode, we talked about, for the purposes of evaluating an invention, what problems will we face 2 to 5 years from now, because that time frame is a sweet spot for most inventors, a reasonable time frame to look ahead to try to commercialize an invention. I will put a link to that video in the description below. Also in that video, we examined the role of technological trends. This is important for many inventors, and these technological trends often mean that something that is not feasible today may be feasible in just a few short years. As an example, if I needed to have affordable removable storage of say 1 terabyte a few years back, it would have been quite expensive. Now, a card of this size is much more affordable. So if I had an invention that required large amounts of portable storage, I should be aware that even if today that amount of storage is not readily accessible, there is a reasonable chance it could be available in a few years when my invention is ready. So that was what we covered in the previous video. However, the opposite can also be true. Sometimes a technological trend can make it so that an idea that makes sense today is not going to make sense in a few years. In some cases, by the time a product has been brought to market, that market is gone. Because the rate of technological change can be fast at times, there are situations where millions of dollars have been spent to develop a product, only to have a failed launch because by the time the product was ready, there was other technology out there that rendered the product obsolete. And we are going to look at 2 case studies in this episode. Case study number 1 is the advanced photo system. This was a standard adopted by various camera manufacturers. Now, for those born after 1990, I will explain that before digital cameras, photography relied on film, and the APS was going to take film to a new level by actually incorporating some digital encoding technology. Things like shutter speed and exposure settings could be encoded in each frame, as well as other metadata. Here you can see the APS cartridge as compared with the traditional 35mm canister that had been around for decades. The APS cartridge had easier loading and unloading, and while it wasn't going to fully replace 35mm film, it was envisioned that for applications such as general photography, the APS would become the new standard. Note that Kodak's branding of the APS was Advantix, which is not to be confused with this dog medicine. But I think there is no confusion because today, when someone mentions Advantix, they are probably not talking about film. So let's see how it played out. The APS launched around 1996. Now to be fair, in 1996, digital photography was not yet practical. The resolution was poor, it was hard to do anything with the images. The media was not yet standardized. All kinds of issues existed. But based on the way things were going, it was not going to end well for APS. By 2002, digital cameras that could easily create a crisp 4x6 image were readily available. The proliferation of USB and media cards made it easy to offload images from your camera for editing and printing. By 2004, less than 10 years after it began, it was over. And of course now, mobile phones have pretty much ended the point-and-shoot digital camera market. So for our second case study, we're going to talk about digital VHS, which I'm guessing many of you have never heard of, and now you're going to learn why you never heard of it. The digital VHS, or DVHS system, was launched around 1997, and it was intended to be compatible with regular analog VHS tapes that were already in millions of households. So the idea was that all your old tapes would also work on this new machine, which used standard videotapes. However, the DVHS was able to record digital video as MPEG-2 on the tape. It used the IEEE 1394 FireWire standard to transfer data to or from another device, such as a tuner. So let's look at the timeline. Around the same time the DVHS came out, DVD players were launched. The DVD disc format had superior random access. You could jump around to different parts of a movie much quicker than with tape. The DVD also had a menu system to let you access special features, turn on subtitles, and more. Furthermore, the 1394 protocol itself was mostly obsoleted by the USB and HDMI protocols that were developed around that time. And finally, by 2000, hard disk recording devices were available that could record video and let you watch a recording in progress from the beginning, a feature known as time shift. For example, you set a recording for a show that starts at 8 p.m. You get home at 8:10 p.m. and your recording is already in progress. With time shift, you can watch the show from the beginning as it continues to record. This was something that was not possible with the tape format. So maybe if the digital VHS came out 2 or 3 years earlier, things might have gone differently for it. But by the time it was released, it was already obsolete. And that's probably why you have never seen or maybe even heard of the digital VHS. But it did exist. So to recap, before plowing ahead with an expensive endeavor, consider if it could become obsolete within the time it takes to develop your idea. And if you want to dig deeper into transitions between old and new technology, you may want to check out this book. It chronicles some other case studies of the fall of an old technology due to the rise of a new technology. It is an older book, but its lessons still hold up today, so I highly recommend it. So thanks again for watching this episode of Inventor's Quick Tips, and we'll see you again soon.